Good afternoon, all of you. Welcome to the TCS Academy for Computation. So, today in this lecture session, we are going to discuss the introduction to the GDP. Right? So, about me and our institution. So welcome back to the TCS Academy for Computation. My name is Professor Tara Chandrasimha KG, graduated from Mysore University in the year 1990 with Kannada literature, history and economics were the major papers. I had post-graduated from the Coimbatore University in the year 1992. I have 26 years of rich teaching experience from KG to post-graduation. Dear friends, currently I am working in one of the reputed institution as a vice principal and HOD, Department of MBA and MCom, Bengaluru. So I am the CEO of TCS Academy for Computation. So basically this is the virtual platform through which we are going to take up the classes for the aspirants of UPSC Civil Service Examinations, State Civil Service Examinations, KAS and KES and Police Sub-Inspector Examination, Banking, Railways, FDA, SDA, PDO and many more. Dear friends, in this session, so we are going to discuss the national income part 1. The content that we are going to discuss, like the meaning of national income, basic terms associated with GDP, and factors of production, history of national income, and finally, so we look into some of the data related to the sector-wise GDP. Let's begin. What do you mean by national income? Dear friends, national income is nothing but monetary value of all the final goods and services produced by a country during a period of 1 year. As you know that in one financial year, it starts from April 1st to March 31st. Okay? And basically the national income calculation, national income accounting, it's the important, the activity comes under the economics. Before going to understand in detail about the computation of national income, so now let's understand the meaning of economics. Okay. Now, what is economics is all about? Dear friends, I put it in a simple way. Economics is a branch of science which studies the economic activities of mankind. So now the question arises, which are the economic activities? Which are not economic activities? Friends, the activities which are motivated by profit, activities which are motivated to earn money or monetary assets, it is known as economic activity. Then you must be knowing which are the non-economic activities. Okay, as you all know that mother in the family So who cooks food and serves the people in the family, right? Do you think she expects any monetary reward for the service renders? No, not at all. So that service is not considered as economic activity. Dear friends, so let's talk about the national income. Just imagine a family. Your father earns 50,000 rupees per month. Mother earns 40,000 rupees. Your elder brother earns 30,000 rupees. Altogether it will be 1,20,000 rupees. Correct? Calculating this earnings from the family members, it will be easy, and computation or calculation of the national income of different countries, it is not so easy, because in the countries we have lots of economic activities. Which country is doing well, which is not. Okay, so that could be understood with the help of the national income accounting. Before going to understand in detail about the national income accounting, so let us begin to understand some of the basic terms associated with the national income. Right? Number one, production. What do you mean by production? Any economic activity or any process where combining the various material and immaterial things, so like plans, strategies, expertise, technical knowledge, okay, in order to make something, that is called output. Okay, in order to make something or in order to make output, we are going to combine material things and immaterial things, material inputs and immaterial inputs in an economic activity. It is a process, so that is called as production. Now let's understand what is consumption. Dear friends, consumption is a process of using up of goods and services for direct satisfaction of the individual, right? Suppose, take an example. I, Simha, consumes an orange. Okay, it is a process of using up of or consuming or having the commodity in order to satisfy my personal want. So that is called as consumption. Then what is capital formation? The process of building up the capital stock of a country through investing in productive plants and equipments. Okay, stock of machineries, stock of equipments, and stock of fixed assets. Building up all those capital stocks, which is known as capital formation, right? So now let's understand what is final goods. All goods which are meant either for consumption by the consumers or for investment by firms, we can call it as like this: the goods which do not undergo any further change in the production process, that is known as final commodity or final good. Take the example of mobile. I use the mobile, you use the mobile, it is a final good. Okay, so this cannot be put in production process further, right? That is called as a final commodity. Now, so understand very clearly about the intermediate goods. Okay, all goods which are used as raw materials for further production of other commodities or for resale in the same year. Take the example of biscuit. It is a final commodity. So what are the raw materials, what are the inputs that we are going to add up in order to make a biscuit? Those items which are considered as intermediate things. Okay, example, flour, milk, sugar, salt, which are being used in order to make a biscuit. All these come under the intermediate goods. Is it clear? Okay. What is consumer good? Goods which are consumed by the ultimate consumer directly. That is called as consumer good. Consumer goods has two categories. One is durable consumer goods and non-durable consumer goods. Take an example, television, refrigerator, washing machine, air cooler. So all these come under the durable consumer goods, right? Then what are non-durable consumer goods? Apple, biscuits, so which we consume after the consumption process is over. So their independent existence will be lost, and such commodities are called non-durable goods. Now let me understand. So let's understand another important term, capital goods. Capital goods are those goods which are bought not for meeting immediate needs of the consumer, but for producing other commodities. Whatever the goods, whatever the things, whatever the equipments and assets we buy, those items are known as capital goods. Okay, take the example of equipments, technology, furnitures. Okay, all these things which we bought not for the personal consumption, it is for producing some other items. We are using certain assets, and those are known as capital goods. Dear friends, so let's understand in detail about the factors of production. It is very important concept in the economics, so especially associated with the GDP calculation. So there are two important basic issues, central challenges before us. Number one is, how is income generated? What makes countries rich or poor? Okay, so we need to address these basic problems, basic challenges in the economy, right? Dear friends, as we know that human wants are unlimited. Okay, human wants are unlimited. To satisfy those wants, it is necessary we need to consume certain items, certain services. Consumption is necessary. Consumption is required in order to satisfy the human wants. Okay, for this consumption activities, so we need to produce the items which are being used for the consumption process, right? Production is necessary in order to supply the goods for the final consumers. Okay, then we come to the final stage. The production generates income. So did you get the answer for this question? How is income generated? Income is generated by producing number of goods and services which can be put in the market for sale. After selling them, we get income. So this is how the income is being generated, right? Yes. Dear friends, in the production process, so we are going to combine the four important inputs. We are going to combine the four important inputs in the production. Those inputs which are known as factors of production. Is it clear? Which are known as factors of production. Okay? Factors of production. factors of production. Basically, there are 4 factors of production: land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship. Correct? I told you in the production process we are going to take up the help of 4 important inputs which are known as factors of production. Factors of production: land, labor, capital, and organization. Is it clear? Yes. Okay. So now another important central issue before us: what makes countries rich or poor? You must be knowing that it is not just the country has plenty of natural resources, mineral resources, forest resources, and most of the country's land is flat and fertile. Okay? And those countries are rich countries. Number 1. Okay? So, for country's development, for the country's growth, all these resources are required. But we cannot come to the conclusion the country which has plenty of these resources are rich countries. No. In fact, some of the Latin American countries and African countries are poor countries in spite of rich natural resources. Whereas many developed countries, just take the example of Japan. Japan has no resources. Japan has scarcely any resources, though it is developed country. Okay, so therefore economic wealth or economic well-being does not depend on the possession of natural wealth. The point is how these natural wealth, how these resources which are being used in producing the goods and services, that is a matter. So that is the point is here. Okay. Consequently, how the income and wealth is being created by using all these natural resources, mineral resources, forest resources, and basically the personal resources, right? Okay. Yeah. So now let's understand the 4 important factors of production. Number 1 is land. In economics, whatever the things, whatever the gifts given by the nature, whatever the gift, whatever the nature has given us as gifts, it may be surface and under the surface, whatever the things which are available for us freely, everything is considered as land in economics. Okay, example: soil, river, water, forest, minerals, desert, sea, climate. Okay, so all these resources which are considered as land in economics. As you know that it is immovable item, so that it can be called as passive item. It is inelastic. It cannot be changed. Okay. The land itself does nothing. So this is one important, the factor of production. Now let's move on to the labor. Human effort done mentally or physically with the aim of earning income, that is called labor. Okay. So what is the reward that we give for the labor is being used in the production process? Wages or salaries. Okay, as we know that it is one of the active factor. Now let's move on to the capital. Capital is a part of wealth. In economics, capital is nothing but all fixed assets. All fixed assets including building, real estate, okay, cash in hand, bank balance, investment, and much more. So whichever take out and invest in the business, that is called as capital. Okay, capital includes machineries, tools, buildings, roads, bridges, trucks, which are also come under the category of capital. So now let's move on to the fourth important factor of production, that is called entrepreneur. Entrepreneur is a person who organizes other factors of production. Okay, he is the person who coordinates with land, labor, capital in the right proportions, okay, at the required percentage in the production process. Okay, so that the person who takes risks, it may be financial risk or technological risks, okay, so that person is considered as entrepreneur, okay, organizer. Okay, now so let's come to the history of national income. Under the British rule, history of national income could be studied under two heads. One is in independent India and under the British period. So now let's discuss what was happening with relation to the national income accounting under the British period. The first attempt was made by Dadabhai Naoroji in 1867 and 68. Okay, so he is considered as grand old man of India, okay, and unofficial ambassador of India. Okay, he is a scholar, politician who was a Liberal Party MP in the UK between 1892 and 95, and he was the first Asian to be the British MP other than the Anglo-Indian MP. Okay, so this is all about the brief introduction to the Dadabhai Naoroji, who has made the first attempt in calculating the GDP of India. He has estimated the national income at rupees 340 and per capita income at rupees 20 in 1867 and 68. Next, move on to the second important contribution given by Dr. V.K. R.V. Rao. He was the first scientific method he has been used in computing the national income accounting in the year 1931 and 32. So by doing so, he has classified Indian economy into two parts, two sectors. One is primary sector and secondary sector. Okay, what are the activities come under the primary sector? According to his classification, agriculture, forest, fishing and hunting. And secondary sector, it includes industries, construction, transport, public service and business. Okay, so he has computed personal income of India. It was 77.90 rupees. Okay, so V.K. R.V. Rao, he was the founder of Delhi School of Economics. He has awarded the Padma Vibhushan in the year 1974, and he was awarded the PhD in 1937 from Cambridge. Okay, the title of his doctoral thesis, that is the national income of British India in 1931-32. Okay, so he studied with John Maynard Keynes in Cambridge. So this is all about how the national income has been computed, how the national income has been given attention under the British rule. So now let's discuss what has happened after the independence. The first official attempt was made by P.C. Mahalanobis. P.C. Mahalanobis. He was the head of the National Income Committee that has been appointed by the Government of India, in which we have two other members like D.R. Godgil and V.K. R.V. Rao. The first report of the committee was presented in 1951. Okay, P.C. Mahalanobis committee has constituted by the Government of India, and it has been presented its report in the year 1951. According to the report presented, okay, so national income of India in the year 1948 and 49, it was 8,710 crores, and the per capita income of India in 1948 to 49, 225. So later the task of estimation of GDP was transferred to the Central Statistics Office, CSO, and it was fully developed National Income Division under CSO. So we have fully developed National Income Division. It has been created at the national level. Okay, the task of estimating the GDP has been assigned to this office, that is called Central Statistics Office. Is it clear? Okay. Since 1951, the national income estimates were compiled by this office, that is called CSO, based on the national level survey, which was conducted by National Sample Survey Office. National Sample Survey Office used to conduct the survey. On the basis of the survey which has been conducted by NSSO, CSO office has compiled the national income and presented. That was the situation in the year since 1955. Okay, so during the year 2019, central government merged CSO and NSSO and established another important office called National Statistics Office, NSO. NSO is the office created in the year 2019. Okay, in this NSO, both CSO and NSSO has been merged. Now at present, estimating the GDP or calculating the GDP of India, it is an activity given to the NSO. Okay, so at present, NSO, National Statistics Office, has taken up the task of estimating the national income accounting. Clear? Okay. In order to understand very clearly about the national income accounting, so we need to understand the three sectors of the economy. Basically, there are three sectors in the economy. One is primary sector, secondary sector, tertiary sector. Primary sector, agriculture and allied activities come under the primary sector. Secondary sector, it is manufacturing sector or construction sector, or it is a sector where we create the value addition is being taken place in commodities, that is called secondary sector. Tertiary sector, it is popularly known as service sector. Okay, so in which number of services which are offered for consumers. Okay, it may be hotel business, transportation services, okay, and hospital services, financial services rendered by the financial experts, and the banks which are providing number of modern services to their customers, okay. And real estate service, public administration service, defense service, all these come under the tertiary sector. Dear friends, now let's look into the, as per the prelims point of view. So we need to understand some of the important data related to GDP. Okay, sector wise GDP of India, that needs to be understood very clearly as far as prelims point of view. So now let's understand, let's have a look of the data regarding the sector wise GDP of India. In the year 1951, primary sector contributes to the GDP. It was 55% of contribution to the GDP by primary sector. Secondary sector contributes 15% to the GDP, and tertiary sector constitutes only 30%. Okay, so this was the sectoral contribution towards the national income accounting in the year 1951. Dear aspirants, you need to have a brief understanding of the 2019 and 2020 data. Okay, that is very, very important as far as prelims 2021 is concerned. So let's take the 2019 data. In 2019, the primary sector, it has contributed 15.96% to the GDP. Secondary sector contributes 24.88% GDP, and tertiary sector, which is one of the biggest contributor to the GDP, okay, that is called tertiary sector. So even in 2020 also, the tertiary sector contributed much towards the GDP calculation. Okay, you just go through the data given by the sector wise GDP calculation. Okay, 2020 primary sector contributes 17.76%, secondary sector 27.48%, tertiary sector, it is the biggest service sector, contributes major contribution 54.77% to the GDP. So average since from 1991, let's take from the year 1991, after the introduction of the LPG program, okay, the contribution to the GDP by the tertiary sector has drastically increasing over the years. See, in 1991 it was 40.5%, 2018 it was 48.81%, 2019 it was 49.88%, 2020 it was 54.77%, average 52% of the GDP contribution by tertiary sector. Okay, yes. So this is the Indian economy, a snapshot taken out from the economic survey 2020-21. Okay, just have a look, and you need not to analyze. Analytical part is not required as far as prelims point of view. Okay, for prelims you need to understand conceptual understanding of the thing. Okay, so some few datas you have to remember. Okay, and you need not to go for analytical part of the economic survey. Okay, just have a look, and what was the contribution by three sectors in the economy towards the GDP. Okay, and just understand how the contribution has been made for the GDP growth in an economy as per the 2020-21 calculation economic survey, right? Thank you very much. Thank you for listening.